So chitlins are the intestines of a pig. You have to clean them very well if you're going to cook them and eat them, and they smell up your kitchen to high heaven. So my dad did not want them cooked in his kitchen.
Wow.
So my mom was not allowed to cook chitlins. But my grandmother...
Did he ever say why? Did he ever say why?
Only that they smell up the house. That's all he would say.
Okay.
So my mother would have to go to her mother's home to eat chitlins because her mother cooked chitlins.
And where was her mom? Where did her mom live?
North Philadelphia.
Okay.
We lived in Germantown, and Nana lived in North Philadelphia, Tioga.
Okay.
And a little different from North Philly, but in the North Philly area. 17th and Bevier.
Okay.
Bevier is a French name. It's a French name. That's the name of the street. 17th and Bevier. Okay. So.
And that's near Tioga?
It's in Tioga.
It's in Tioga. Okay.
It's in walking distance of Gratz and Gillespie.
Yeah.
Gratz High and Gillespie Junior High.
Yeah.
So I would go with my mom to Nana's to eat chitlins. So much so I fell in love with these things. We would put hot sauce on them. There'd be potato salad, fresh greens, and homemade rolls. So much so I love these. I would take my New Year's Eve dates when I started dating. First, we have to go to Nana's so we can have chitlins.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. And I only remember one guy actually going. I don't know who else I took there. But my grandmother would say...
people said no to that? The
guy
said no.
I don't know if they said no, or I just don't remember asking them or taking them or whatever. But I do remember one. And he said, oh, yes, let's go. And my grandmother would pull me aside and you know what she would ask me? Is he kind?
Oh.
I would say, oh, Nana, I love him so much. She'd say, is he kind? So as I grew up, that was a question I asked myself. Is this man kind? Many of them were not.
Yeah.
They may have liked chitlins, but they weren't kind.
That is wild.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
That's wild. Food.
Food, man.
Food.
So I've heard this story my whole life. When we first got to this country, my mom, so in India, we made our own yogurt, right? You had yogurt cultures, you boiled your milk, you cooled it down, you added your yogurt, you had yogurt. Yogurt is a part of every meal. You always had yogurt. There was never a time you didn't have yogurt. Just it's curd. It's just curd. It's curdled milk. That's all it is. And apparently, when my mom first got here, I mean, they were like, immigrants. My mom didn't have a job yet. She couldn't work. She wasn't allowed to work yet. My dad, whatever it was. And my mom didn't know where to get, like she hadn't learned how to do all that yet.
How to navigate the system.
Would save her money for a month to buy yogurt for us. We would have yogurt once a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a story I've always heard. And then at some point, I guess she figured out how to use the yogurt cultures to make our own yogurt. That was the big deal. Like we could make our own yogurt.
Wow.
Yeah. And
now, where does the yogurt tradition come from in India? What is it? What's it about?
I don't know if I could tell you honestly. I really don't. I mean, yogurt is a part of every meal. It's the thing that cools down the spices. So you need it. You need, and here's the thing. Dairy's not a big thing in Indian meals. Like you don't have a lot of dairy, but the
cow is sacred.
And the cow is sacred. Yes. The
Mhm.
cow is sacred. The
Mhm.
milk is, so the milk, you know, you might use milk for tea, you might use milk to give your kids milk, but you
Mhm.
don't use it in cooking that much.
Mm.
But the place you use it is yogurt, which is
Okay.
curdled milk. It's you know,
Mhm.
it's a different kind of, you know, there's not a lot of milk used except for the curdled milk,
Mhm.
and you make your
Mm.
own. So at some
Isn't that
point, there was
something?
a point in my life where I made my own yogurt, and I've
Wow.
gotten away from that. I haven't done that in a long time, but it does taste different. It's fresh. It's just completely.
Mm.
But you know, like food has such a I remember when I moved to Boston, and you know, I'd been living in Philly, and you know, Philly was my home, and you know, the hoagie was the thing, right?
Yes.
And I
The
moved to
hoagie and the cheesesteak.
the hoagie and the cheesesteak. And what's the first thing you put on hoagies and cheesesteaks?
Yogurt.
I don't know about
Oh,
that.
ketchup, onions, ketchup, mustard,
Onions.
onions.
Okay, onions. I moved to Boston, and I was, you know, an admin assistant, which is, you know, basically a glorified secretary. You do whatever your boss tells you to do. And I was
Mm-hmm.
asked to order lunch for the board. I was at a nonprofit. That's what I was doing. I was asked to order lunch for the board. The board meeting. I wasn't going to the board meeting. I was just ordering lunch for the board meeting.
Okay.
And everybody ordered, you know, like they were ordering from a sub, because they don't have hoagies there, they have subs.
They have subs. That's a different name.
They don't do hoagies. So they
Yes.
so they ordered,
Yes.
they had me order subs. I ordered subs with lettuce, tomatoes, and onions, because that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And my boss, after the meeting, you know, ripped me a new one and said, uh, you know, I don't know what they do in India, dear, but we don't have smelly food like that at our board meeting
Oh my
because of the
goodness.
onions. And
Ooh.
it took me days to figure out what she was talking about, because I thought she was talking about Indian food. She was talking about Philly food. She was
Yes.
talking about hoagies, and it took
Mhm.
me days to figure out what she was even
Mm.
meant. It was because of the
Wow.
onions.
Onions.
But that's the thing about food. You know, I mean, the number of times I've been told about my kitchen smelling,
Mm-hmm.
being too smelly,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's onions or spices or whatever it may be. But
Or
that's
chitlins.
or chitlins. Right. So that's what, like, when you talked about your story, I'm like, oh my goodness. That's the kind of judgment people have about
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
And she didn't even know, I mean, onions.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Mm-mm-mm.
I got a talking to from my boss because I ordered onions on the hoagies on subs. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that
And
wild?
I grew up in a neighborhood, in a black neighborhood, but a mixed neighborhood where there was a black shoe shop repair or shoemaker, a Jewish delicatessen,
Mm.
and a black cheesesteak restaurant. And I wasn't allowed to go in there as a little girl because there were too many black men hanging around in there. But Tony's Steak Shop, they made the best steaks in Germantown.
Mm.
And a steak was this chopped up, I don't know what kind of steak it was, skirt steak, very thinly sliced, with cheese and onions and ketchup and mustard. And it was delicious.
Mm.
Now, we don't eat that way anymore because it's not healthy, but we were eating unhealthy food then as comfort food,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yes.
On Friday or Saturday night, when my dad came home from his catering job, his second job, he would come in the door, wake us up, because we'd be kids in bed, wake us up with either cheesesteaks, Chinese food, or what was the other thing? I think that was it. Cheesesteak or Chinese food.
Mm.
And the Chinese food, he would try to bring each of our favorites. I loved egg foo young.
Mhm.
I won't eat egg foo young out of a Chinese restaurant in America now because I know what they do in their kitchens. I
What's
make
that?
my own egg foo young.
Okay, all right. You learned the real deal.
Yes, but you know, these fast foods were like comfort food
Yes,
in different communities,
yes.
you know?
Well,
And we
yeah.
loved it.
Wait, so what do you do in a real when you make your own egg foo young? What do you do?
I have alfalfa sprouts, not alfalfa. It's the thicker ones. So I have sprouts. I'm not sure what they're called. And egg. It's almost a scrambled egg. And onions. And you make a gravy. So you saute all those things, and then you put the scrambled egg in, and you kind of fry it, and you flip it, and then you have a beef gravy that you pour over it. Oh my goodness. It's delicious.
Yum.
But this Chinese food was made for Americans.
Right.
The Chinese food in China is not that.
It's not that.
No, they Americanized the food here, the Chinese food here, to accommodate the Americans because
Right.
they had no idea. And I want to tell you, the food in China, authentic Chinese food in China, is exquisite, delicious. Nothing like this American Chinese food on the corners of neighborhoods in the West.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. I mean, I don't like going out for Indian food in America because it doesn't taste like home cooking to me.
No.
You know, it's just not the same. But yeah, you know, but there's comfort food. Comfort food is its own genre or whatever, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Remember when we drove to Chicago and we went with your family to the Indian restaurant?
Yes.
And I had the tandoori chicken. That's the chicken that's red, right?
Yeah.
And we got back to the George School, and the other fellow math teacher said, "You were in Chicago?" I said, "Yeah, we went here, we went there." He said, "Don't tell me you went to the same Indian restaurant I went to." I said, "Oh, that's where we went."
Oh, I don't remember that. Are you serious?
I'm serious. He was through with us. Not only, he went there for his daughter's graduation. I think she was graduating from Northwestern. And he said, not only were you in Chicago, we went to the same Indian restaurant.
I did not remember that. That's crazy.
He was sick of us.
Oh my God.
He said, "How far do your generations go back in America?" I said, "What does that have to do with it?"
What does that have to do with it?
He thought he was better than. You did not eat at the same Indian restaurant. Well, first of all, you didn't have any business being there because you're not Indian. At least I was with an Indian descendant. That's right. You know, white people.
Who was this? I won't ask. You don't have to say the name. But what?
I can't remember, but he was older.
Wait, why did he think he had found the be-all, end-all of Indian food in Chicago?
That's right. And you know it was in a mall where most of the Indian restaurants are, and the food's not that great anyway.
Oh, man.
It's like the corner Chinese restaurant.
Well, the number of times people have come to me and said, "Oh, you're Indian. Oh my God, I love Indian food. Let me tell you about my favorite place." And it's just like, you don't even know. You don't even know. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know, you cooked for me at the George School. You had your yogurt.
I used to cook a lot more then, didn't I?
Yes, you did. And it was so delicious. And since then, we've been to Tiffin here in Philadelphia.
Wait, did I make my own yogurt at George School?
Yes.
Oh my God,
I was
do that
so
again.
impressed. I was so impressed. I said, this girl is authentic Indian. She made her own yogurt.
For a minute.
And in Chicago, I met a woman at a block party, and she recruited me for her cooking classes. Now, she's a beautiful woman, and she came to America having not met her husband that she was betrothed to.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me this story when I met her, and she gave cooking classes. So, of course, I went. She says, I'll charge you less because you're a friend of a friend. And I went there. She had a beautiful kitchen. Her husband had a garden in the back. He supplied her with herbs and vegetables. And the food was delicious. I got sick the first night.
Oh no.
I got home. I was so sick. She had fresh yogurt. It was the spices. And maybe I had a little much. But I went back a couple of times. It was great. It was great. That was a Chicago experience.
Wow.
An Indian cook. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I heard about that. That is, yeah. Well, you know what? We had not ever cooked together. Is
A
that
little bit. A little
really?
bit. Well, we've been in the kitchen together
We've been in
here.
the kitchen, but we've
at
never
this
really like
apartment.
planned a meal or like we've never
We
done
have
that.
to do that. We have to do that.
We
I'm a
gotta
good
do
sous
that.
chef. I'm a good sous chef. You
Well,
tell me
you're
what
a
to
good
do.
chef, Janet. I mean, I've been to your place for Thanksgiving or the
Oh,
holiday, the seven fishes meal for the holidays and
but
Thanksgiving.
Kavita, you don't understand. I have chef friends. I can't call myself a chef.
You are a
Having
chef.
chef friends. I
Oh.
like to cook. And sometimes it's good.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, but we have to cook together. We have to plan a meal.
We have never planned a
And
meal
cook together.
together in all the times that we have like eaten at each other's places or whatever, eaten out. We have never planned a meal together.
Yes, we have
We
to
do that.
I would love it.
And I got to start making my own yogurt again because, you know, there's nothing like fresh yogurt in the world.
Yeah. You know, I've cut down on dairy, so I'm not even eating cheese really. I like to buy the French feta because that's good in salads. But I used to eat cheese just as a snack, and I'm really trying to cut down. But I would incorporate some fresh yogurt into my diet at this time. Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think there's something about the way that the traditions of holiday meals. And I think I've gotten to experience that with you a couple times with the Thanksgiving and the seven fishes meal. Like that was a good learning for me. You know, like I'd never done that before.
Neither had I. That was a first for me too.
Oh my goodness. Course after
I'm game
course
to
course.
try anything. Yeah. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do it this year and don't know whether we can do it next year.
You know, it'll come back again.
Yeah, but that was so much fun. And I so loved preparing all that food for people. They talked about it for months. And Jan cooked an 8-course fish dinner, seafood dinner.
7-course or 9-course. I know it was an odd number because that was the
It was an odd number. It wasn't.
That's right.
It's supposed to be the 7 fishes, but I had something extra in there.
I think you did.
Yeah. Yeah. But I made oyster stew the day after Thanksgiving this year. I just wanted some. That was good. And I made a bouillabaisse last Wednesday.
Oh,
that
really?
That was wonderful. That was wonderful. But it was sad because I was the only one here to eat it. So I ate it for 3 days and then I put the rest in the freezer. So I'll add to what's in the freezer eventually and make something else.
Well, eventually I'll be over. So there's
well, that's a bet. That's a bet. Yes. Yeah. Food is the stuff of life. Believe me. Food and love. We can't do better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Food
Mhm.
is culture. Food is,
Oh, yes.
yeah, it's everything. Everything I've learned about the world is it's always comes back to food, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. As long as there's a willing cook in the kitchen, we're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
We
you
won't.
taught me how to make food that my mom makes that I never learned to make. That happened.
What is that?
The
The
the the,
dessert?
the shakarpare.
The shakapare. Boy, I
Yes.
love that.
You made that for me.
Because your mom gave me that recipe. That's right. I looked it up after having hers. And
Okay.
the other thing, the aloo.
Yes.
I love that. That's good. And your mom gave me the traveling Indian spice can. What do
Oh,
they call that?
the 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 the
Yeah, what do they
masaladani
call
with
it?
the
It has a name.
masala dani.
Masala Dani. I never knew. I'm writing it down now. Masala Dani. I absolutely treasure that.
I love
And
it. I love
and
it.
I replenish it. I wash it out, dump out all the old spices and add new. And it's nice how all the spices combine in there. It's great. It's great. Yeah. So I
You
love
are a chef.
living.
You just got to call yourself a chef now. Come on.
All right. If you want to call me a chef, you can. But my friend Valerie would not be happy
Okay, I'm
because
sorry. I'm sorry, Valerie.
because she has scars to prove that she is a chef. And
Okay.
I
Well, I
learned a
get
lot from her. Um, but I love my masala dani, and I have carried it with me. When your mom told me it was a traveling one because of that inner lid, I've taken
yeah.
it with me to go on, vacation or to visit a friend so that I can cook for them with my special spices.
Aw, that's sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah, it's
Well,
great.
she'll be happy to hear.
Yeah. Just appreciation of different cultures goes a long way.
Yes.
It goes a long way. Hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
food can be an entry into that conversation.
that's right.
So,
That's right. Yeah. You're a special person.
aw,
Mhm.
so are you. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Take good care.
Bye.
Bye bye.